So today we're starting a new unit on exponents. We're also going to be talking about the order of operations. And these are things you've done before, but we're going to add all of our new negative stuff to it using negative numbers, and that will make things a little more interesting for you. So when we talk about exponents, we're talking about these little numbers that are kind of up above the bigger numbers. And the most common misconception is that you multiply these two numbers together to get 10 or 15 or something like that. But that's not true. If this was 5 times 2, they would just write 5 times 2. They do this little fancy 2 because it's something else. So we need to know this is not 5 times 2 and 5 times 3. It's something else. So the big number at the bottom is called your base, and that's the number that's going to be multiplied a certain number of times. And the exponent, the little number, is how many times it's going to be multiplied. So it's repeated multiplication of whatever the base is. So we're going to multiply 5 times itself 2 times, or 5 times itself 3 times. So not 5 times 3, but 5 times 5 times 5. All right, now there's two different forms we need to talk about. Expanded form, which is the actual multiplication written out, and then standard form, which is basically just the answer. So exponential form is using an exponent. Expanded form is writing the multiplication. So again, this is not 5 times 2. This is 5 times 5. So what I want you to do is the exponent tells you how many blanks you should be putting. Okay, so I'm multiplying two numbers together. That's what the exponent tells me, how many times I'm going to multiply it. And then what I fill in here is just the base. So I'm going to put 5s in every single blank. So this just means 5 times 5. And we know that to be 25. So standard form is just the answer, 25. Now, we've got 5 to the third. So I need 3 blanks. 1, 2, 3. So 5 to the third is 5 times 5 times 5. So we already knew 5 times 5 was 25. So we're taking that 25 and multiplying it by another 5. And that's 125. So if you said 5 times 3 was 15, you're not even close. The actual answer is 125. Okay, so we need to be careful. If they wanted us to multiply 5 times 3, then that's what it would say. This fancy exponent means we got to do something different. So let's not fall into that trap. So how do we write 5 to the fourth? 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, 4 times. So we already know 3 5s give me 125. So now I got to multiply that times 5 one more time. So if I multiply this by 5, and you can use your calculator, it is 625. So again, 5 times 4 is 20. Nowhere close to 625. All right, let's change up the base a little bit. 3 to the second. The exponent tells you how many, and then the base fills in your blanks. So 3 to the second is not 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 to the third is not 12. It's 4 times 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, times another 4. Again, you can use your calculator. Is 64. 6 to the second. It's not 12. 6 times 6. So that's 36. And 2 to the fifth. Let's do it without the blanks now. You're going to write the number 2 5 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. Now, how do we do this in our calculator? So you, of course, could do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And you'll see there's your 32. Okay, but I also can use the exponent button. So if you take a look right here, this little arrow pointing up, this is the button that helps you put exponents into your calculator. So instead of writing out all of these 2's, I can just hit the number 2, and this is like my raise 2 button. Okay, my raise 2 button. And then I'm going to put my exponent in. So I'm going to put a 5 and hit equals. And it's 32. Okay, so let's practice one more. 4 to the third is 64. Let's see if we can get it. 4 raised to the third. 64. All right. Let's go to this box. This box is important. FYI, for your information. Okay. Any base raised to the power of 2 is called what? So instead of saying 5 to the second, we can say 5 blank. Think about it. Do you remember what it is? The answer is squared. So instead of saying 5 to the second, I can say 5 squared. 3 squared. 6 squared. If you say to the second power, you're not wrong. This is just another option. So what about 3? 3 also has a special one. So instead of 5 to the third, just waiting to see if you remember, it's cubed. So instead of saying 5 to the third, I can say 5 cubed. Instead of 4 to the third, I can say 4 cubed. And we know that's a 3 as the exponent. Now, any base raised to the power of 1. So if I have 5 to the first, what does that equal? If I have 10 to the first, what does that equal? So it's not 1. 5 to the first is actually 5. 10 to the first is actually 10. So whatever the base is, if you raise it to the first power, think about it, you're just writing it one time, and that's it. Then any base raised to the power of 1 is just itself, or the base. Now here's a tricky one. Any base raised to the power of 0. So what is 5 to the 0? What is 10 to the 0? So before we answer that question, we're going to add a little bit to this. So if you would expand our little chart here, and let's do 5 to the 0. Now, we've actually shorthanded all of these. There is something extra that we don't write. There's actually a times 1 at the end of every single one of these. Every single one of these, there's a times 1. You could add it if you wanted to. But think about when I multiply 6 times 6 and get 36, and then multiply times 1, I'm still going to get 36, right? So what's the point in multiplying by 1 if it's not going to change anything? And that's why we don't write it, because it's just extra work, extra stuff to write. That's not necessary. But it's still there every single time. So this 5 to the 0 is going to have a times 1. Remember, the exponent tells you how many blanks to put. So if it was to the first, you put 1, 5, and 5 times 1 is 5. But it's to the 0. I'm not putting the number 0, I'm putting the number 5 0 times, which means I'm just not putting it. So I'm not multiplying anything times 1. So my answer just stays 1. 5 to the 0 is 1. 10 to the 0 is 1. Any base raised to the power of 0 is always 1. Don't believe me? Try it in your calculator. 25 raised to the 0 is 1. 0 raised to the 0. Well, you can't do that. What about 1 raised to the 0? That's 1. What about negative 1? Oops. If you want to do a negative, you actually have to put it in parentheses. Negative 1 raised to the 0 is 1. Okay, anything raised to the 0 is 1. So let's try some of these. So tonight's homework or classwork that you're going to work on, some of these you might be able to do in your head, and your calculator is going to also help you out to get the standard form. But for tonight, I need to show you what's expected in terms of showing your work. So this will not be something you'll have to do 2 weeks from now, but for tonight, to make sure we have a good understanding of these exponents, you're going to have to write the expanded form for all of these. So let me show you what that looks like. So for something like number 1, 5 to the 5th, show me what that looks like. It's 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Okay, the base is 5, and it's written 5 times. Now, the multiplication part, use your calculator. You can either do 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 like that, and it's 3125. Or use the button I just showed you, 5 raised to the 5th, and you're going to get the same answer. So the next one, 2 to the 11th, how does that expand? I need 11 2s. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't want to type that into my calculator, so I'm going to go 2 raised to the 11th. It's 2048. But this is the work that you're going to have to show for today and for a couple days to make sure that we understand that this is not 2 times 11, that it's actually this. So 6 to the 3rd. 6 times 6 times 6. 6 times 6 times 6. 216. Again, I could have used my new fancy button, 6 raised to the 3rd, and I get the same answer. All right, 9 to the 3rd. 9 times 9 times 9. If I plug that in, 9 raised to the 3rd, 729. All right, so for the rest of this paper, I want you to try them. I want you to expand them and then get the answer. When you got that done, raise your hand and we'll see how you did.